Hello and welcome to another hopefully quick update on a few things that I've added to CoW since the last video I made. So in no particular order, one of the things I've added is a repeatable option to the bind key command. So what that means is you are able to specify if a particular binding is repeatable, and if you were to keep your fingers pressed on the keyboard, that binding would repeat until you took your fingers off the keyboard. That's quite useful. I use it to here actually. I use it to close multiple windows at once, so it's quite common actually for me to have several external windows open, as you can actually see here, and I'll often want to close them quickly. So by having a repeatable binding, if I pressed that binding and held my hand down on the keyboard, all these windows would close fairly quickly. So that's quite useful, and hopefully you'll find it useful too. The next thing I want to talk about is window layers. So at the moment, it's possible to lower and raise windows as I'm doing here, as you can see. But layers take that a stage further and effectively group windows to a given layer within themselves, depending on a sort of hierarchy. So for example, if I wanted to make this red window the highest layer, I could do something like this. So top would be a shortcut for layer 6, I think, by default. And when I do that, you'll see, well, you'll just have to take my word for it that I'm trying to raise this window above that red X term, and I can't. However, what I can do is still raise and lower windows relative to each other. This is a core feature of fvwm. It's been there for some time. This takes River's Z order a stage further, which I think is potentially more useful. If I wanted to revert that change, I can just cheat and put the window back in layer 4. And if I now lower that window, you can see that they're all in the same layer. To go alongside this, there is a hook that has been added, or a rule I should say, for on-layer change that will enable you to be able to run commands if a Windows layer changes. Now this might be useful if you wanted to, I don't know, do something with that window. I haven't come up with a good use case myself yet, but I'm sure somebody will. The other thing that's changed is there's a new command called desk-name, and what that does is that allows you to set a name for a given desktop. If you are in a global mode where when you change pages, every monitor changes alongside it, that reference would be global to all outputs. If you're on a per output setting where desks are separate, then you can actually tailor different outputs to have different names. So for one other thing you can do is change the desk name to be something different. At the moment you can see that we're on desk 3. If I wanted to, I could give that a name, and I would do that with this command. So for whatever reason, desk 3 is now hello. The reason why you don't see that change, say up here in the way bar, is because I haven't configured desk names to be shown. But what we can do is verify that anyway, just very quickly, and just by listing out the desks that CoW knows about, you can see that one of them has the name hello. So that is potentially useful if you have external applications that reference these things, or you want specific names for specific desks. It also means that when you've named a desk, you can refer to it in commands that reference desks. So if you were trying to say close a window with a particular title, you could specify the desk name, and that would be a valid lookup as far as CoW is concerned. Other things that's happened since output management, that has seen some changes, most notably around monitors being turned off and on again. It sounds strange, but CoW wasn't paying attention to those outputs in that way. That meant that windows were disappearing, not being seen. That's now changed, and we fixed that. What I've also done is added a new rule called on outputs changed, and what that will do is it will allow you to run any command you want. What's useful about that is it does mean that you can, if you wanted to, use it to set your monitor layout, because if you were to say switch to a virtual terminal for whatever reason, come back to CoW, the excuse me, the state of the monitor outputs is effectively lost, and that needs reapplying. And if I just quickly scan through this, you can see here I have a rule that will call a script. That script just happens to set my monitor layout. So that's another improvement that's happened. Lastly, the other thing that's changed is how Panframes are handled. So that's when you use the mouse to change between pages. So to give you an example of that, I've set edge scroll to true, and I've set a delay of 900 milliseconds. So as my pointer approaches the edge of the monitor, you'll notice that it will start to turn orange. And for all the time that that cursor pointer is in that region, when it turns bright orange, paging will occur. You can see that we're now on page 01. If I move my cursor back up, we return to where we were. Same sort of principle, but what's different here is that the detection has been improved, and it means that it should be easier to pan between monitors where they share a boundary between each other, because it was very difficult to move your cursor between monitors and not cause some sort of paging action to occur. So hopefully that's going to be a bit more consistent. Well, I think for now that's probably all that's worth highlighting. As before, if you find these interesting, let me know. Best place to come find me and others actually is on IRC. Excuse me, I will leave a link to that in the description of this video. But otherwise, before my voice completely gives up, thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.